Katie Martinez sat in her favorite spot on the observation deck of the starship Starbound. The large window showed the planet below them. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green land masses. She had been working in the science lab all morning, looking at samples from the planet's surface. Her head hurt from staring at the computer screen for hours. She opened her lunchbox and pulled out a turkey sandwich. The bread was fresh from the ship's kitchen, and she had added extra pickles just the way she liked them. Katie was only 28 years old, but she had already spent 3 years working on spaceships. This was her dream job, studying alien life forms and new worlds. The observation deck was quiet at this time of day. Most of the crew ate in the main dining hall, but Katie preferred the peace and quiet here. She could watch the planet slowly turning below while she ate. The science team had found signs of life on this world, but they had not seen any intelligent creatures yet. Katie took a big bite of her sandwich and looked out at the stars beyond the planet. Space was so vast and beautiful. She wondered if there were other beings out there looking up at the stars just like she was looking down at them. Not suddenly. There was a loud crash. The emergency shield over the window cracked, and something small flew through the opening. Katie jumped up from her chair, dropping her sandwich on the floor. Red lights started flashing, and an alarm began to sound. The thing that had crashed through the window was moving. Katie could see it was alive, but it was not like any animal she had ever seen before. It was about the size of a house cat, but it had wings and scales that seemed to change color in the light. The creature looked hurt and scared. Katie's training told her to call security right away. First contact with alien life was supposed to follow strict rules. But when she looked at the small creature, she saw that it was bleeding from cuts on its wings. It was making soft crying sounds, like a lost puppy. The creature tried to fly, but one of its wings was torn. It fell back to the floor and looked up at Katie with large, bright eyes. Those eyes seemed to show intelligence, not just animal fear. Katie had studied many different life forms, and she could tell this was no ordinary animal. She knelt down slowly, trying not to scare the creature more. It backed away from her, but it could not move very fast because of its injuries. Katie could see that its scales were actually a beautiful mix of blue and silver colors. When the light hit them just right, they sparkled like jewels. "It's okay, little one," Katie said in a soft voice. "I won't hurt you." The creature tilted its head and seemed to be listening to her voice. Its large eyes watched her carefully. Katie noticed that small electrical sparks were jumping between the scales on its back. The sparks were very dim, like tiny lightning bolts. Katie looked at her sandwich on the floor. Half of it was still wrapped in paper. She picked it up and tore off a small piece of turkey. Very slowly, she held it out toward the creature. The creature sniffed the air. It took a step closer, then another. Finally, it reached out with a small claw and took the piece of meat. It examined the turkey carefully, turning it over and smelling it from different angles. Then it ate the piece in one quick bite. Katie smiled. She tore off another piece and offered it. This time, the creature came closer without hesitation. As it ate, Katie could see that the electrical sparks on its scales were getting brighter. The creature seemed to be feeling better. "You're hungry, aren't you?" Katie said. She tore off more pieces of her sandwich and continued feeding the small creature. It ate everything she offered, including some of the bread and even a pickle. After eating, the creature looked much stronger. The electrical sparks on its scales were now glowing softly, and it seemed less afraid. It sat down near Katie's feet and looked up at her with what she could only describe as gratitude. Katie realized she was in big trouble. The rules about first contact were very clear. Any alien life form had to be reported immediately. Scientists and military officers would. Need to study the creature. There would be tests and procedures. The thought of this small, intelligent being locked in a laboratory made Katie feel sick. She looked around the observation deck. The alarm was still sounding, but no one had come to investigate yet. The emergency teams were probably dealing with the damaged window shield. Katie had maybe 10 minutes before someone would come looking. The creature was now trying to clean its wounded wing with its tongue. Katie could see that the cuts were not too deep, but they needed to be treated. She made a decision that would change everything. "Come on, little one," she said, reaching out her hand. "Let's get you somewhere safe." The creature looked at her hand for a moment, then climbed onto her palm. It was warm, and she could feel the tiny electrical pulses running through its body. Katie wrapped her other hand gently around the creature to hide it from view. She quickly gathered up the remains of her lunch and headed for the door. Her heart was beating fast. What she was doing was against every rule in the book. She could lose her job, or worse. But she could not abandon this small, hurt creature to become a laboratory specimen. As Katie walked through the corridors of the ship, she kept the creature hidden in her hands. It seemed to understand that it needed to stay quiet and still. Katie's quarters were on Deck 7, not far from the observation deck. She just had to make it there without being seen. She passed 2 crew members in the hallway, but they were busy talking about the damaged window. They barely noticed Katie walking by. Her hands were sweating, and she was afraid she might drop the creature. Finally, Katie reached her door. She quickly entered her access code and slipped inside. Her quarters were small but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and small bathroom. She gently set the creature down on her bed. The creature looked around the room with curiosity. It seemed to be studying everything, from the computer terminal to the pictures on Katie's desk. Then it looked back at Katie and made a soft sound that almost seemed like a purr. Katie sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her new companion. The creature's scales were now glowing with a steady, soft light. The electrical sparks were dancing across its body in patterns that seemed almost like a language. "What am I going to do with you?" Katie asked quietly. The creature tilted its head as if it understood the question. Then it did something that made Katie's breath catch in her throat. It reached out one small claw and gently touched her hand. The touch sent a warm, tingling sensation up her arm. In that moment, Katie knew that sharing her sandwich with this creature was just the beginning of something much bigger than she could imagine. Katie woke up the next morning to find the small creature curled up on the pillow next to her head. During the night, it had made itself comfortable and seemed much better. The cuts on its wings looked cleaner, and the creature was breathing peacefully. She had spent most of the previous evening watching the creature explore her quarters. It was clearly very intelligent. It had figured out how to turn the lights on and off by touching the control panel. It also seemed fascinated by her computer, running its claws gently over the screen and making soft chirping sounds. Katie had decided to call the creature Spark because of the way electrical energy danced across its scales. When Spark was happy or excited, the sparks were bright and fast. When the creature was tired or sad, they were dim and slow. Now she had to figure out what to do next. Katie needed to report to the lab in an hour, and she could not leave Spark alone in her quarters. What if someone came by for maintenance? What if Spark got scared and started making noise? Spark opened its large eyes and looked at Katie. The creature stretched its wings, and Katie was happy to see that they looked much better. The tears were healing quickly, faster than should be possible for any Earth animal. "Good morning, Spark," Katie said softly. "How are you feeling?" Spark made a gentle trilling sound and climbed onto Katie's shoulder. The creature was warm and surprisingly light. Katie could feel the electrical pulses running through Spark's body. Like a gentle vibration. Katie got dressed for work, being careful not to disturb Spark. She had brought some extra food from the dining hall the night before, and she offered Spark some fruit and bread. The creature ate carefully, examining each piece of food before taking small, neat bites. While Spark ate, Katie tried to think of a solution to her problem. She needed help, but who could she trust? Most of the crew would report her immediately. If they found out about Spark, the rules about alien contact were too important to ignore. Then, Katie thought of Jake Peterson. Jake was an engineer who worked on the ship's computer systems. He was also one of Katie's closest friends. They had known each other since training school, and Jake was one of the few people who might understand why Katie had broken the rules. Katie made a decision. She would have to tell Jake about Spark and ask for his help. It was risky, but she had no other choice. She created a small nest for Spark in one of her dresser drawers, lining it with soft clothes. Spark seemed to like the cozy space and settled in comfortably. Katie left some food and water nearby and promised to come back as soon as she could. The morning in the lab was difficult for Katie. She kept thinking about Spark alone in her quarters. Dr. Linda Hayes, the chief scientist, noticed that Katie seemed distracted. "Katie, are you feeling all right?" Dr. Hayes asked. "You seem worried about something." "I'm fine, Dr. Hayes," Katie lied. "Just tired from all the research we've been doing." Dr. Hayes was a good scientist, but very strict about following rules. She would never understand why Katie had helped Spark. Katie would have to be very careful around her. During lunch break, Katie went to find Jake. She found him in the engineering section, working on a computer panel. Jake was 26 years old with brown hair and friendly green eyes. He always had a smile for everyone and was known for helping people solve their problems. "Jake, I need to talk to you about something important," Katie said. "Can you come to my quarters after your shift?" Jake looked at Katie's serious expression and nodded. "Sure, Katie. Is everything okay?" "I'll explain later," Katie said. "Just please come alone and don't tell anyone." Jake agreed, though he looked worried. Katie hurried back to her quarters to check on Spark. She found the creature exactly where she had left it, sleeping peacefully in the drawer. But something was different. Spark had somehow activated Katie's computer, and the screen was showing patterns that Katie had never seen before. The patterns looked like mathematical equations, but they were far more complex than anything Katie understood. The numbers and symbols seemed to move and change as she watched them. Spark opened its eyes and looked at the computer screen, then at Katie. "Did you do this, Spark?" Katie asked. Spark made a soft chirping sound and touched the computer screen with one claw. Immediately, the patterns changed into different shapes. It was as if Spark was communicating with the computer in some way. Katie spent the afternoon watching Spark interact with her computer. The creature seemed to understand how the technology worked, even though it came from a completely different world. Spark could make the computer show different images and data just by touching the screen. When Jake arrived that evening, Katie was nervous about telling him the truth. She opened the door and let him in, then locked it behind him. "Katie, what's going on?" Jake asked. "You've been acting strange all day." Katie took a deep breath. "Jake, I need you to promise me something. What I'm about to show you has to stay secret. Can you promise me that?" Jake looked confused, but nodded. "Of course, Katie. You know you can trust me." Katie walked over to the dresser and carefully lifted Spark out of the drawer. Jake's eyes went wide when he saw the creature. "Katie, what is that?" Jake whispered. "This is Spark," Katie said. "I found him yesterday when he crashed through the observation deck window. He was hurt and scared, and I couldn't just leave him for the scientists to experiment on." Jake stared at Spark, who was now perched on Katie's shoulder. The creature's scales were glowing softly, and small electrical sparks were dancing across its body. "Katie, "Do you realize what you've done?" Jake said, "This is first contact with an alien species. There are protocols, procedures. You could go to prison for this." "I know," Katie said. "But look at him, Jake. He's not just an animal. He's intelligent. He can use computers and understand what we're saying. I think he might even be trying to communicate with us." As if to prove Katie's point, Spark climbed down from her shoulder and walked over to the computer. The creature touched the screen, and immediately it showed the same complex patterns Katie had seen earlier. Jake walked closer to the computer and studied the patterns. As an engineer, he recognized some of the mathematical principles, but the equations were far beyond anything humans had developed. "This is incredible," Jake said quietly. "These calculations, they're about energy manipulation and space-time physics. How could a creature this small understand such advanced concepts?" Spark looked at Jake and made a gentle, trilling sound. Then the creature did something amazing. It touched the computer screen again, and this time the patterns changed into something that looked like a star map. Jake and Katie could see their current location marked on the map, along with several other points of light. "I think Spark is trying to show us where he comes from," Katie said. Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring at the star map. Finally, he looked at Katie and Spark. "Okay," he said. "I'll help you, but we need to be very careful. If anyone finds out about this, we're both in serious trouble." Katie felt relief wash over her. Having Jake's help would make everything much easier. Over the next few days, Jake and Katie worked together to take care of Spark. Jake used his engineering skills to modify Katie's quarters so that Spark would be more comfortable. He installed better air circulation and added some plants for Spark to hide behind. Jake also helped Katie understand more about Spark's abilities. The creature could interface with any electronic device just by touching it. Spark seemed to communicate through electromagnetic pulses, and these pulses could control computers and other technology. "I think Spark's species evolved alongside their technology," Jake explained. "They don't use machines the way we do. They become part of the machines, controlling them with their bioelectric fields." Katie watched Spark playing with her tablet. Computer, making images appear and disappear with just a touch. The creature was learning about human technology very quickly, but Katie suspected that Spark understood things about science and engineering that humans had not even discovered yet. But their secret was becoming harder to keep. Dr. Hayes was asking more questions about Katie's behavior, and Captain Stone had mentioned strange energy readings coming from somewhere inside the ship. Katie knew that time was running out. Soon, someone would discover Spark, and then everything would change. Katie's worst fears came true on a Tuesday morning. She was in the lab, trying to act normal while her mind was on Spark back in her quarters. Dr. Linda Hayes had been watching Katie closely for the past week, and today she seemed more suspicious than usual. "Katie, I need you to come with me to your quarters," Dr. Hayes said suddenly. "There have been reports of unusual energy readings coming from that section of the ship." Katie's heart sank. She tried to keep her voice steady. "Energy readings? I haven't noticed anything unusual. The engineering team detected electromagnetic pulses that don't match any of our equipment," Dr. Hayes continued. "Captain Stone wants us to investigate every room in that area." Katie followed Dr. Hayes through the corridors, her mind racing. She had to warn Jake somehow, but he was working in a different part of the ship. There was no way to contact Spark without making Dr. Hayes more suspicious. When they reached Katie's quarters, Dr. Hayes used her override code to open the door. Katie held her breath as they stepped inside. At first, everything looked normal. Then they heard a soft chirping sound from the direction of the dresser. Dr. Hayes moved quickly toward the sound. She pulled open the drawer where Spark usually hid and gasped when she saw the small creature. Spark looked up at the strange human with frightened eyes, and electrical sparks began dancing wildly across his scales. "Katie Martinez, what is the meaning of this?" Dr. Hayes demanded. "You have violated every first contact protocol we have. This is a court-martial offense." Spark seemed to sense the tension in the room. The creature climbed out of the drawer and ran to Katie, scrambling up to her shoulder. The electrical activity on Spark's scales increased, and suddenly every electronic device in the room began to flicker. "Please, Dr. Hayes," Katie said, "let me explain. Spark was hurt when I found him. I couldn't just let him suffer." "Spark? You named it?" Dr. Hayes looked shocked. "Katie, this is an alien life form. It could be dangerous. We don't know anything about its biology or its intentions." As if responding to Dr. Hayes' words, Spark made a sad, whimpering sound. The creature pressed closer to Katie's neck, seeking comfort. The electrical activity on his scales was now affecting more than just the room's electronics. The lights in the corridor outside began to flicker as well. Dr. Hayes activated her communicator. "Dr. Hayes to Captain Stone. We have a situation on Deck 7. I need security teams here immediately." Within minutes, Captain Stone arrived with 2 security officers. Captain Robert Stone was a tall man with gray hair and stern eyes. He had commanded the Starbound for over 10 years and was known for following regulations strictly. "Dr. Martinez," Captain Stone said in a serious voice, "you are under arrest for violation of first contact protocols. The creature will be taken to the laboratory for study." When the security officers moved toward Katie, Spark became extremely agitated. The creature's electrical discharges suddenly increased dramatically. Every electronic device on Deck 7 began to malfunction. The lights went out and emergency power kicked in. Computer screens flickered and showed random data. "Stay back," Katie warned. "You're scaring him. When Spark gets upset, he can't control his electrical field." But the security officers continued to approach. One of them reached for Spark, and the creature let out a high-pitched cry that seemed to echo through the ship's communication system. Suddenly, the ship's main computer began showing error messages, and the navigation system started giving incorrect readings. Captain Stone's communicator crackled with reports from all over the ship. "Captain, we're having system failures throughout the vessel. Life support is fluctuating, and the engines are showing power irregularities." "It's Spark," Katie said urgently. "His emotions affect his bioelectric field. When he's scared or upset, he can interfere with electronic systems." "You have to let me calm him down." Dr. Hayes looked skeptical. "That's impossible. No biological organism could have that kind of effect on our technology." As if to prove Katie wrong, Spark's distress caused another wave of electromagnetic pulses. This time, the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone in the room to feel momentarily weightless. Captain Stone made a quick decision. "Everyone step back." Dr. Martinez calmed the creature down. "We can't have it disrupting the ship's systems." Katie gently stroked Spark's scales and spoke to him in soothing tones. "It's okay, Spark. They won't hurt you. I won't let them hurt you." Slowly, Spark's electrical activity decreased, and the ship's systems began to stabilize. But the damage had been done. Everyone on the bridge now knew that there was an alien creature aboard the ship. Lieutenant Commander Alex Rivera, the communications officer, arrived with urgent news. "Captain, we're receiving structured signals from the planet's surface. The signals started when the electromagnetic disturbances began. I think someone down there is responding to the creature's distress calls." Captain Stone looked at Katie with new understanding. "Dr. Martinez, this creature isn't alone, is it? There are others of its species on the planet." Katie nodded. "I think Spark has been trying to contact his family. The patterns he shows on the computers look like Star. maps, and communication signals. As they spoke, Jake Peterson appeared in the doorway. He had heard about the commotion and came to help Katie. When he saw the security officers and the serious expressions on everyone's faces, he knew their secret was out. Jake knew about this too? Dr. Hayes asked angrily. How many crew members have violated protocols? Before anyone could answer, the ship's sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching from the planet's surface. Lieutenant Commander Rivera's voice came over the communication system. Captain, you need to get to the bridge immediately. We have 3 large objects rising from the planet's atmosphere. They don't match any known technology. Captain Stone looked at Spark, who was now calm, but still clinging to Katie's shoulder. It appears that your pet has friends, Dr. Martinez, and they're coming to look for him. The situation was now much bigger than a simple violation of first contact protocols. Katie realized that her decision to help one small, hurt creature had started something that could change the relationship between humanity and an unknown alien species. Dr. Hayes was still angry about the protocol violations, but even she could see that they were facing something unprecedented. Captain, we need to study the creature. We need to understand its capabilities and its species technology. No, Katie said firmly. Spark isn't a specimen to be studied. He's an intelligent being with feelings and thoughts. He's been trying to communicate with us, not hurt us. To demonstrate her point, Katie asked Spark to show them the star map again. The creature climbed down to the computer terminal and gently touched the screen. Immediately, a complex 3-dimensional map appeared, showing not just their current location, but what appeared to be trade routes and communication networks spanning multiple star systems. This is a galactic map, Jake said in amazement. Spark's species has been traveling between stars for who knows how long. Their technology is far more advanced than ours. Captain Stone studied the map carefully. If this is accurate, then we're dealing with a civilization that has capabilities far beyond our own. The question is, are they friendly or hostile? As if in answer to his question, Spark touched the screen again and showed them images of what appeared to be peaceful interactions between different species. The picture showed various alien races working together, sharing technology and knowledge. I think they're peaceful, Katie said. Spark has never shown any aggression. He's been gentle and curious about everything human. But their discussion was interrupted by another announcement from the bridge. Captain, the 3 objects have reached our position. They're enormous, sir. Each one is at least 10 times the size of our ship, and they're scanning us. Captain Stone made a decision that would affect not just the crew of the Starbound, but all of humanity. Dr. Martinez, you and the creature will come with me to the bridge. If this is first contact with an alien civilization, then you may be our only way to communicate with them. As they made their way to the bridge, Katie could feel Spark trembling on her shoulder. The creature seemed to sense that something important was about to happen. The electrical sparks on his scales were moving in complex patterns that almost looked like a language. It's going to be okay, Spark, Katie whispered. Your family is here. They came to find you. But Katie couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger. Her simple act of sharing a sandwich with a hurt creature had somehow become humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization. And now, the fate of both species might depend on the bond she had formed with a small dragon-like being who had crashed into her life just a few days ago. When they reached the bridge, Katie saw through the main view screen 3 massive ships that seemed to be made of living crystal and metal. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, and they were clearly waiting for something. Katie looked down at Spark, who was now glowing brightly with excitement. The creature was finally going home, but Katie wondered what that would mean for the rest of humanity. The bridge of the Starbound had never been so quiet. Every crew member stared at the main view screen, where 3 massive alien vessels hung in space like floating cities. The ships were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They seemed to be made of living materials that pulsed with soft light, and their surfaces moved like breathing skin. Katie stood next to Captain Stone, with Spark perched on her shoulder. The small creature was more active than she had ever seen him. His scales were glowing brightly, and electrical patterns danced across his body in complex sequences. Katie could tell that Spark was trying to communicate with the ships outside. "Commander, Rivera, are you detecting any communications from those vessels?" Captain Stone asked. "Nothing on standard frequencies, sir," Rivera replied, "but I'm reading massive electromagnetic activity. It's similar to the patterns we detected from the creature, but much more complex." Dr. Hayes, who had followed them to the bridge, was studying her scanner readings. "Captain, the energy output from those ships is incredible. They're generating more power than our entire ship, but their energy signatures are completely stable. I've never seen technology like this." Jake, who had also been brought to the bridge because of his knowledge of Spark's abilities, was monitoring the ship's computer systems. "Captain, something strange is happening. Our computers are receiving data, but not through our communication systems. It's like the information is being transmitted directly into our memory banks." Before Captain Stone could respond, Spark suddenly flew from Katie's shoulder to the main computer terminal. The creature pressed his small claws against the screen, and immediately the view screen changed. Instead of showing the alien ships, it now displayed what appeared to be a face. The face was clearly not human, but it was beautiful in an alien way. It had large, intelligent eyes that seemed to glow with inner light, and features that were both strong and gentle. The being's skin had the same scale-like texture as Spark's, but in shades of deep gold and green. When the being spoke, its voice came through the ship's speakers in perfect English, though there was a musical quality to the words that made them sound almost like singing. "Greetings, small ones," the being said. "I am Elder Flame of the Galactic Dragon Collective. We have come to retrieve our young one, but we find ourselves in a situation we did not expect." Captain Stone stepped forward. "I am Captain Robert Stone of the Earth vessel Starbound. We found your young one injured and have been caring for him." Elder Flame's expression changed, showing what might have been surprise. "You have been caring for him? This is not what we expected from your species." Katie felt compelled to speak up. "Sir, I'm the one who found Spark your young one. He was hurt and scared, so I helped him. I gave him food and made sure he was safe." Elder Flame's large eyes focused on Katie. "You are the one called Katie Martinez." "Yes, our young one has told us much about you through the mind link we share. You showed him kindness when you had no reason to do so." Dr. Hayes interrupted her, scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Mind link? You can communicate with each other across space? All members of our species are connected through bioelectric fields," Elder Flame explained. "Distance means little to us. We have been aware of everything that has happened to our young one since the moment you found him." Captain Stone felt a chill run down his spine. "You've been watching us this entire time?" "Not watching, Elder," Flame corrected. "Experiencing. Through our young one's senses, we have seen your ship, your crew, your technology. We have felt his emotions as he interacted with your people." Jake stepped forward. "Then you know that we never meant any harm. Katie was just trying to help." Elder Flame nodded slowly. "This is what makes your species so interesting to us. We have been observing humanity for many of your years, studying your behavior from a distance. We expected you to react with fear and aggression when faced with an unknown life form. Instead, one of your people offered food and comfort to a creature she had never seen before. The revelation that humanity had been under observation shocked everyone on the bridge. Captain Stone found his voice first. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since your species first left your home planet," Elder Flame replied. "We monitor all developing civilizations in this region of space. Most species follow predictable patterns when they encounter alien life. They either try to capture and study it, or they try to destroy it out of fear." Katie looked down at Spark, who had returned to her shoulder. "But I didn't do either of those things." "No," Elder Flame agreed. "You did something that very few species ever do. You showed compassion to a being that was completely different from yourself, even though it could have been dangerous. This is why we are here." Commander Rivera spoke up from his station. "Sir, I'm detecting more ships approaching. Dozens of them." The view screen split to show the surrounding space. Katie gasped when she saw that they were now surrounded by dragon ships of various sizes. Some were as large as the first three, while others were smaller and more sleek. All of them had the same living, breathing appearance. "Do not be afraid," Elder Flame said. "We have called others of our kind to witness this moment. What happens here today will be remembered for generations." Dr. Hayes was frantically taking readings on her instruments. "Captain, the technology these ships are displaying is centuries beyond our own. They're manipulating space-time itself. Some of these vessels are existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously." Elder Flame seemed amused by Dr. Hayes' scientific excitement. "Your species has much to learn, but you have the potential to understand these concepts. Your minds are more flexible than most. What do you want from us?" Captain Stone asked directly. "Elder." Flame was quiet for a moment, as if considering how to answer. "Our species has existed for millions of your years. We have traveled the galaxy, seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We have developed technology that allows us to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We can travel instantly between stars and communicate across vast distances." The dragon leader paused, looking directly at Katie. "But in all our long existence, we have rarely seen the kind of simple, instinctive compassion that you showed to our young one. Most advanced species lose this quality as they become more powerful and technological." Jake was beginning to understand. "You're not just here to get Spark back, are you?" "Our young one was not lost by accident," Elder Flame revealed. "He was sent to your ship as a test. We wanted to see how your species would react when faced with a vulnerable alien life form." The bridge fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. Katie felt a mix of emotions. She had been manipulated, but at the same time, she had apparently passed some kind of important test. "A test?" she asked. "What kind of test?" "We have been considering whether to make contact with humanity," Elder Flame explained. "Your species is on the verge of becoming a true spacefaring civilization. Soon you will encounter other species in the galaxy, some friendly and some hostile. We wanted to know what kind of people you truly are." Captain Stone was starting to understand the bigger picture. "And based on what happened with your young one, what have you decided?" Elder Flame's expression became more serious. "The galaxy is not a safe place for developing species. There are civilizations that view newer races as threats to be eliminated, or resources to be exploited. Species that show promise are often destroyed before they can reach their full potential." "But you're different?" Katie asked. "The Dragon Collective has survived for so long because we learned to value wisdom over power, cooperation over conquest. We have formed alliances with species that share our values, and we protect those who cannot yet protect themselves." "Commander." Rivera looked up from his console. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups around the planet. It's like they're preparing for something." Elder Flame nodded. "We are activating protective barriers around this world. If we are to have this conversation, We must ensure that it is not interrupted by those who would not approve of our decision." "What? Decision?" Dr. Hayes asked. Elder Flame looked around the bridge, studying each human face carefully. Based on the compassion shown by Katie Martinez and the loyalty shown by her friends, we have decided to offer humanity something that has never been offered to such a young species. The dragon leader paused dramatically. "We wish to invite humanity to join the Galactic Dragon Collective as a protected junior member. You would gain access to our technology and knowledge, and in return, you would help us protect other developing species throughout the galaxy." The offer was so unexpected and so enormous that no one on the bridge could immediately respond. Katie looked at Spark, who was making soft, happy sounds and nuzzling against her neck. "This is because I shared my sandwich with Spark?" Katie asked. In amazement. "Actions reveal character," Elder Flame replied. "Your willingness to help a stranger, even at personal risk, shows us that humanity has the potential to be worthy partners in our mission to protect and nurture life throughout the galaxy." Captain Stone realized that this moment would change the course of human history. "This is not a decision I can make alone. This would affect all of humanity." "We understand," Elder Flame said. "But we needed to begin the conversation with those who have already proven their." 3 months had passed since first contact with the Dragon Collective, and Katie's life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. The Starbound had been transformed into humanity's first diplomatic vessel, equipped with dragon technology that allowed instant communication with Earth, and the Dragon HOMEWORLDS. Katie stood in what used to be the ship's main conference room, but was now called the Liaison Chamber. The room had been redesigned with both human and dragon technology, creating a space that felt comfortable for both species. Spark, who had grown considerably over the past months, perched on a specially designed platform that allowed him to interface with the communication systems. Today was the day that humanity would give its final answer to the Dragon Collective's invitation. Representatives from every major nation on Earth had been debating the decision for weeks, and Katie had served as the primary translator and cultural interpreter between the two species. The learning process had been incredible for both sides. Katie had discovered that Spark's species, called the Draknari, had evolved on a world where biological and technological development had happened together. Their entire civilization was based on the idea that living beings and technology should work in harmony, not in opposition. Through Spark, Katie had learned to interface directly with dragon technology using her own bioelectric field. It had taken weeks of practice, but now she could control dragon computers and communication systems almost as easily as Spark could. The process felt like extending her consciousness into the machines, becoming part of them rather than just using them. Elder Flame appeared on the main communication screen, his golden-green features now familiar to Katie after dozens of conversations. Behind him, she could see other dragon leaders from across the galaxy, all waiting to hear humanity's decision. "Katie Martinez," Elder Flame said in his musical voice, "are your people ready to give us their answer?" Katie nodded. "Yes, Elder." "Flame, President Williams will be speaking for Earth in just a few moments." The screen split to show President Sarah Williams in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by advisors and military leaders. Katie had spent many hours briefing the president about dragon culture and technology, trying to help Earth's leaders understand what they were being offered. "Elder Flame," President Williams began, "on behalf of humanity, I want to thank you for your patience during our deliberations. This decision will affect every person on Earth and all future generations. We understand the weight of this choice." Elder Flame replied, "Take whatever time you need." President Williams looked directly at the camera. After extensive discussion with world leaders, scientists, and military experts, Humanity has decided to accept your offer to join the Galactic Dragon Collective as a protected junior member. Katie felt a surge of relief and excitement. Sparks. Scales lit up with bright, happy patterns, and she could hear approving sounds from the dragon leaders on the screen. However, President Williams continued, "We have some conditions we would like to discuss." Elder Flame's expression remained calm. "Please, tell us your concerns. First, we want to maintain our political independence. Earth will remain governed by humans, making our own decisions about our internal affairs." "This is acceptable, Elder," Flame said. "We have no desire to rule other species. Our role is to provide guidance and protection, not control. Second, we want to ensure that human culture and values are preserved as we advance technologically. We don't want to lose what makes us human." Elder Flame seemed pleased by this request. "This shows wisdom. Many species have lost their identity when they advance too quickly. We will help you develop in ways that strengthen your natural qualities rather than replacing them." And finally, President Williams said, "We want Katie Martinez to continue serving as our primary liaison with your collective. She has earned our complete trust and confidence." Katie was surprised and honored by this announcement. She had expected to be replaced by professional diplomats once the formal negotiations began. Elder Flame looked directly at Katie through the screen. "Katie Martinez, are you willing to take on this responsibility permanently? You would become humanity's voice in the Galactic Council and our voice to your people." Katie felt the weight of the decision. This would mean leaving her old life behind completely and taking on responsibilities she had never imagined. But when she looked at Spark, who was glowing with encouragement and support, she knew what her answer had to be. "I accept," Katie said, "but I want to make sure I'm properly prepared for this role. I have a lot to learn about galactic politics and diplomacy." "You will have the best teachers in the galaxy," Elder Flame assured her, "and you will not be alone. Our young one will remain with you as your partner and advisor over the next several hours." The details of humanity's membership in the Dragon Collective were worked out. Earth would receive basic space travel technology that would allow humans to explore nearby star systems safely. Medical advances would be shared gradually, extending human lifespans and eliminating many diseases. Communication technology would connect Earth to the galactic network, allowing instant contact with dozens of other species. In return, humanity would help monitor their region of space for hostile forces and would assist in protecting other developing species when called upon. Human ships would carry dragon observers, and human scientists would work alongside dragon researchers to study new worlds and phenomena. Dr. Hayes, who had become the chief scientific liaison, was practically bouncing with excitement as the technology transfer protocols were discussed. "Katie, do you realize what this means? We'll have access to medical technology that could eliminate cancer, heart disease, and aging itself. We'll be able to travel to other star systems in weeks instead of decades." Jake, who had been named as the chief technical liaison, was equally amazed. "The energy technology alone will revolutionize everything. No more fossil fuels, no more pollution. We could have unlimited clean energy for the entire planet." But Katie understood that the real value of joining the Dragon Collective went beyond technology. Through her conversations with Elder Flame and other dragon leaders, she had learned about the rich community of species that worked together throughout the galaxy. Humans would no longer be alone in the universe. "Elder Flame," Katie asked, "when do we begin? When will the first dragon teachers arrive on Earth?" "They are already here," Elder Flame said with what Katie had learned was a dragon smile. 3 of our education ships have been in your solar system for the past week, waiting for your decision. They will establish training centers in several locations around Earth." President Williams looked surprised. "You were that confident we would." "Say yes?" "We hoped you would make the wise choice," Elder Flame replied. "But we also prepared for the possibility that you might decline. If you had chosen isolation, we would have left peacefully and wished you well." Captain Stone, who had been quietly listening to the negotiations, finally spoke up. "What happens to the Starbound? Do we continue as an exploration vessel?" "Your ship will become the first human-dragon cooperative vessel," Elder Flame explained. "It will be upgraded with our technology and will serve as a mobile embassy, traveling between Earth and Dragon worlds to facilitate communication and trade." Katie realized that her entire crew would be staying together, just in a new role. The thought made her happy. These people had become her family over the years, and she was glad they would continue working together. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Katie found herself alone with Spark in the liaison chamber. The small dragon had grown to about the size of a large dog over the past months, and his intelligence had continued to develop at an amazing rate. "Can you believe all this started because I shared my sandwich with you?" Katie said, gently stroking Spark's scales. Spark made a series of soft musical sounds that Katie had learned was dragon laughter. Then he pressed his forehead against hers, sharing a direct mental connection that the dragons had taught her to use. Through the connection, Katie felt Spark's memories of that first day when he had crashed through the observation deck window. She experienced his fear and pain, followed by his amazement when a strange alien creature had offered him food and comfort instead of harming him. But she also felt something else through the connection, a sense of vast networks of consciousness. Spanning the galaxy, millions of beings working together to protect and nurture life throughout the universe. Katie realized that by joining the Dragon Collective, humanity had become part of something much larger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. "What do you think the future holds for us?" Katie asked Spark. Through their mental link, Spark shared images of human and dragon children playing together, of Earth's blue skies filled with graceful dragon ships, of human explorers working alongside alien scientists on distant worlds. The future he showed her was bright and full of possibilities. Katie smiled and looked out through the chamber's viewing port at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, other young species were taking their first steps into space, facing the same challenges and dangers that humanity had just overcome. And now, thanks to a simple act of kindness and a shared sandwich, humans would be among those helping to guide and protect them. The universe was vast and sometimes dangerous,